Welcome to For Every Response, the podcast from Emergency Services Times, sponsored by MSA Safety. In this series, we bring you sessions from the Emergency Services Show and the Emergency Tech Show 2025. Jason Gillard makes his first appearance at the show, and in this episode, he leads a panel discussion on how to move from uniformed service to another career. They discuss the importance of purpose, identity, and community in navigating this next chapter. And they all agree that peer support can be the difference between a lost opportunity and a renewed purpose.
I'm Jason Gillard. I'm the co-founder of Connect Through Service, which we'll go into in a bit. I'm an ex-custody detention officer and ex-soldier.
Lovely, thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, everyone, for coming. A few empty seats. We won't worry about that. My name is Will Hitch. For the last 2 years, I've worked in the tech industry. Prior to that, I did 15 years in the Met Police, majority of which specialist firearms type stuff, so quite niche, quite narrow area of policing. And I've been on a bit of a journey, and it's going to be a real privilege to kind of unlock a few of the insights onto that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Graham Given. Work along with Jay and see one face anyway that I recognise from Northern Ireland. So my background, I was an army officer for 12 years, had been in the reserve before that, and then moved into policing, having sort of covered response, investigations, and then a bit like Will, ended up in specialist firearms side. So from there, then moved into the commercial world. So I've transitioned a couple of times, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Jay, can I ask you about Connect Through Service then? What was the sort of catalyst that made you start that? What was the story behind that?
Yeah, so I said I was in the British Army, and I live in Northern Ireland. I know from accent, I don't sound like Northern Irish like Graham. I went and did close protection, and then I come back and end up working for the police for custody detention. I looked at that, and then I went on to start a business in fitness, and I looked and saw that the transition in Northern Ireland and the nuances of Northern Ireland were very unique, and the support wasn't really there to engage with businesses after post-service. So I had one fleeting meeting with Graham, and we started to talk about how can we help people who served onto the next career set, because it's not the olden days where most people now did a full career in the police, fire, ambulance, and then got out, retired, and that's them. That's not happening now. So Graham had a revolving door of people who work for coming through. I was engaging in the veteran scene in Northern Ireland because I started the Veteran Awards, and we were like, we need to make a bridge, an entity that allows businesses to be able to engage with service leavers, and service leavers have a pathway that they can go to go, hey, I've got these skill sets, would you like to think about me? And because of the nuance of Northern Ireland, it's always been a worry for people on how do they come across and say, I'm ex-police, I'm ex-military. So we wanted to be the trusted partner, and that's when Connect Through Service come about. We've then subsequently, since we've launched it, seen there's actually a massive opportunity across the rest of the UK, because all the emergency services haven't got the funding to be able to help that transition out with, a bit like unlike the MOD, the military, who do, all the emergency services don't have that pathway. No. So we see that as a massive opportunity to go, actually, can we be an answer and a help? And hence, Connect Through Service was born.
Very good. And can I just go a bit more to sort of the issues that we're seeing then? Because obviously, like you say, my experience is fire, and I know ultimately a fire officer, if they join at 18, by 50 they're retiring, but at 50 you've still got a lot to give. And so what are you finding when you talk to especially colleagues in blue lights? What are the challenges they've got coming out of service? Because it can be quite an institutionalized environment, right? Am I right?
Yeah. One of the massive things, I remember having a girl from the Pearson Eye, she literally was in my office and she went, well, what can I do now? As she said, all I've known is being a police officer on the beat, in essence. And it wasn't until I showed her transferable skills, and that's probably the key word to take away from this. Transferable skills is very sought after. And she was like, oh, how to write my CV, and we want to help with that as well. But it's very much not understanding what they can do out. And actually, there's so many companies that would love their skills, but they don't know how to approach those companies. So that would be my key thing, was people understanding transferable skills.
Actual skills. And Graham, what about you? What would you say is your experience then of people, especially maybe in police, the challenges they're facing, and what that sort of suddenly in a new world, what do they do? So.
It is very daunting when you sort of move out of what you're used to. But in policing sense, I did 10 years in policing, so really look back now at 10 years of fantastic service, and the people that were around me. But that mindset, the investigative mindset, understanding risk, the ability to communicate with individuals, in stressful situations. But crisis management, all those key, and crisis communications, all those key skills that are taught, or you learn, you absorb because you're in it on a daily basis. Same with the fire, turning up to an incident and being able to quickly have a look what's going on and make timely, quick decisions. In the when I left, we set up a company which was a professional services consultancy company, and we only use ex-military and police. So when we got together and started talking about Connect Through Service, there is a market for that skill set. Large companies don't necessarily maybe want to bring on a former chief constable because they can't afford to have them, but they will bring them in at a crisis time. But equally, when you look at policing and you look at fire, teams are led, at the lowest level, and decision makers are there. So all those skills, and it's just about communicating and turning it in perhaps to commercial speak. For people to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to translate what they perhaps don't even really know they've already got into skills that are meaningful to somebody else. Will, do you want to just tell us about your story a little bit and your pathway from where you were in the police to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, as a caveat, I can only talk about my experience. And I guess it's a very police-centric and London-centric experience. So I didn't leave policing 2 years ago because I stopped loving policing. I loved it the day I left as much as I joined. For me, it was things about it at that point in my life became unworkable. I've got 3 young kids. They were slightly younger 2 years ago, and it's probably the work-life balance, particularly in the role that I did. The training burden, and Graham, you'll know this well. If you're not literally doing shifts and on long protracted operations, then you're away for a week doing your refresher training, and it's really hard to have that regular kind of stable family life or provide that for your kids as much as you can when you're doing frontline police work. So that was one of the reasons I left. I was also involved in a couple of quite high profile incidents I won't go into, but I was for the first time in my career I was really underwhelmed at the amount of support that we'd got from senior people. And that made me genuinely feel quite vulnerable in a professional sense. So that was another thing which I think was kind of pushing me out. Around the same time, I was introduced to the MD of a UK MD of a tech firm who was looking to recruit someone who came from an operational emergency services background. So it's a bit of a perfect storm in that sense. But it's not been straightforward, and I'm certainly not here to kind of pitch this. Leaving the emergency services is a panacea, because it's not. Although it does have huge benefits. I'll just talk very briefly, Joy, about a couple of the challenges, because I think it's really important to be quite open about it. So for me particularly, the scale of the difference, the scale of the different environments, and the two worlds that I left one day and then a couple of weeks later joined the tech world. I mean, it just took so much bandwidth and emotional energy to marry the two, or kind of transition from one to the other in terms of culture and language, and so much to learn. And I went from a police environment where I was, albeit a niche environment, but I was expert in that field.
Yes.
And then I went into an environment where, frankly, I had the same knowledge of that environment, i.e. the tech stuff, as, maybe someone who's fresh out of uni or fresh out of school or whatever. And that took a while to get used to. I would also just put on people's radar if they are thinking of moving on, and it's not because they've fallen out of love with the emergency services, be really aware that if you go into a job where you are still in and around the emergency services, that can be quite a challenging dynamic too. And you will be pulled into that environment like I was, because I essentially now I have a business development role in the blue light sector. So I'm always at NICs and police bases and fire stations and ambulance stations and all that kind of stuff. But I'm there as the tech guy, as the IT sales guy, not as the operational guy.
And how does that feel sometimes?
It feels really weird. It feels really weird. Still after 2 years, it feels weird.
Yeah.
And to be honest, not nice weird.
Yeah.
So the only reason I mention it is because consider, if you are thinking of taking that plunge and moving out of the emergency services, consider taking those transferable skills that these guys have really well articulated, consider taking them into something completely different that doesn't put you in emotionally tricky little situations where you're in former environments, but you're not with your old guys and girls. You're not in the club. You're there in an alien capacity, which can feel weird.
Absolutely.
Sorry, just what Will was saying there sort of resonates. It's that sense of purpose. When you served, whether it's ambulance, fire, police, you get up, you put you go to work, you have a sense of purpose. That sort of serving, the duty, and it's very hard to replicate that in the commercial world. And we have been very lucky in that we sort of work with ex-colleagues, and there's that camaraderie. But replicating that sort of service piece is very hard, and the reward that you get from having been involved in an incident or coming away from something.
This is huge.
Yeah,
this is absolutely huge. I've had to relearn personal motivation, basically.
Right.
You hear about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation being the thing you're actually doing motivates you of itself, as in the day in, day out thing is enough.
Yeah.
Extrinsic motivation being I will do this thing because it gets me nice things.
Yeah.
And they could be really good things, like nice holidays with your family and, extension on the house and drive a nice car and all the rest of it. They're not bad things.
No.
But I've learned that extrinsic motivation itself is probably not enough for me.
Yeah.
I need the thing itself that I'm devoting my time and energy to also be of motivation.
I feel there's something about if you're a personality type that is drawn or motivated more by giving, helping, supporting, as a lot of people in the community, in public sector are, rather than by the money and the shiny things, you never lose that sense. You never lose that desire to want to do it, right?
And the shiny things are nice. It's not me saying there, don't go after those things because, everyone's different, right? I just can't. Yeah. I can't be solely motivated by those things.
But you can replace that by those who are still in the arena, if you like.
Yeah.
Then sort of assisting them in some capacity, whether it's making sure that they have the right kit, make sure they have the right training, or providing some form of service around that.
Yeah.
Then that gets you out of bed in the morning.
Okay. So Jay, can I come back to you in terms of the service that you provide? When you started having people come to you, what sort of things were they presenting about, and how did you start to help them?
So going back to their first problem was, how do I engage with my CV? How do I translate? I went to a conflict situation where I had to manage a conflict, and then how do I put that onto a CV that can you handle stressful situations, which you might get in an interview? So what we look to do is show them what they can put down their CV that is transferable to what employers are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And a thing we just ran in Northern Ireland for the first time, which was brilliant, is because we just don't want to do, here's a jobs fair, come along. We're also looking at the whole holistical support.
Right.
So in not only that do we have businesses who are looking for their talent, we had mortgage brokers, pension brokers, we had charities, we had Sean's here from Community Search and Rescue. We had given a shout out there, Sean.
Yeah.
We had search and rescues. You find that when something like 30% of people, when they leave, and this goes back to it's not a job, it's a way of life.
Absolutely.
You know, they want to then go, well, I've left. Why don't I join a search and rescue or something like that and give back? It's that. And so we put on an event where search and rescue could look to recruit, you know. So it's not just that employment, it's that what other support do you need and that help, you know, which is very much lacking in this. So we launched the first one of them only last week in Northern Ireland, which we're going to replicate, which is great. But the main thing we're finding is businesses want to do this because they want to reach their talent, but there's never been a pathway to do it, which blew our minds really in this day and age, 2025, why no one's ever doing it. So with Connect Through Service and what we're going, it's making that bridge and that conduit easier. We're not a recruitment company. We're not interested in that. We're just interested in guys coming part of us, and companies going, we've got opportunities. Can we directly put it into their inbox? And then when they go to them, we can guide them and help them. Right, this is what you need to be saying. This is what needs to be on your CV. This is what you need to help upskill yourself to be desirable, even more desirable, even though you already are desirable. But it's making them understand, like Will said, actually I don't have to go in another emergency service element. I can go and join PwC. I can go and join Deloitte, or I can go and do something in manufacturing because I have that management skill set, and so that's what we're trying to really help with.
Are you building a bit of a community amongst those people then, do you feel?
Well, ideally, yes, the intention would be to build a community, one that sort of looks out for each other.
Yes.
And within that, it's not just a case of obviously pulling up a sandbag and sharing stories, but it's how we can open doors for each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of what Jay was saying there, a lot of people we find come out and undersell themselves.
Yeah.
But you have to understand what businesses are after. And you know, you look at the veteran who maybe spent 30 or 20 odd years coming through the ranks and will leave as maybe a late entry officer. All the qualifications that they've gathered along the way nowadays with degrees and everything else. To me, that shows that growth mindset. And if you look at large businesses, large corporations, they want people who will come in, be part of a team and help that business grow, who understand you know, delivering objectives, delivering goals, and being that sort of motivation. So the growth mindset and that service leavers have, I think, is a very marketable thing that if they can put that across in any piece of paper or any interview. What does make us laugh sometimes, you know, particularly on the transition out of the military, people are very quick to put down their adventure training qualifications, which would be great for Sean, but you know, the CEO or the MD of a company doesn't necessarily need to know that you're a canoe instructor.
Yes.
They want to know that you've managed the team, that you've controlled the budget, that you've made decisions and you've resolved these decisions and you're goal orientated.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And you've got great communication skills, or you can facilitate conversation, all of those other things.
Yeah.
Police officers are really bad at that. So I get mates sending me CVs like every week or so, which, you know, to be honest, is a fairly sad indictment of where policing is at the minute. But, you know, it's always, and I was the same, but it's, you know, it's got advanced driving and advanced medic, operational firearms come out, all these things, which in the policing world, you know, hold real value. But you really need to help companies and recruiters thread the needle and understand what that means, because the practical outworking of all those things is when shit hits the fan, you are going to perform.
Yeah.
You are not going to get rattled by minor crises that current employees at that company would probably get really thrown off course by.
Yeah.
If there's a bereavement on the team and people are going to pieces, you can be a cool head. You've dealt with difficult things before.
Right.
You know, and I could give 101 examples. Like it's.
Yeah,
Sorry, Graham, go.
Yeah, no, you've hit the nail on the head there. So I was in this building 4 years ago, and 3 years ago at the Commonwealth Games, we got a contract to come in and quality assure the security plans.
Yeah.
And the big takeaway, you know, so we were dealing with the Commonwealth Games committee, and the big thing amongst all their staff was resilience.
Yeah.
And when things were going completely wrong, I remember just standing watching an incident. It was a crisis at the front, and everything was going horribly wrong. And one person stepped forward and sorted it. And I remember speaking to her afterwards, and she was a retired police sergeant. And it was just like that, it was just natural that she stepped forward and sorted it all. Yeah. And to me, that's exactly what you're talking about. You can't
buy that ability.
No.
PwC, Deloitte will mention, short of employing people who've been in a daily life or death environment, they can't send people away on training to replicate that.
No.
No. It can only come from daily exposure to life and death stuff.
It's lived experience, isn't it?
And it's so powerful,
yeah.
And it needs properly pitching to companies, and they will bite your hand off, and rightly so.
This episode of the Emergency Services Times podcast is sponsored by MSA Safety, proudly supporting emergency services and first responders on the front line. At MSA Safety, protecting first responders isn't just what we do, it's who we are. We work closely with fire and rescue services across the UK to develop and deliver safety solutions designed to meet your ever-evolving needs. That includes MSA Bristol Firefighter PPE, trusted by services across the UK and beyond, shaped through years of collaboration with frontline teams. It also includes our growing investment in innovation and technology, from the connected M1 SCBA modular solution to our agile, fully managed service model that helps keep crews protected and ready to respond. But for us, safety goes beyond equipment. We believe in standing shoulder to shoulder with the people who dedicate their lives to protecting others, whether it's supporting firefighter charities, backing mental health initiatives, or showing up for community events. MSA is proud to be part of the emergency services family. To learn more about our work in the UK and how we're supporting first responders every step of the way, visit www.msasafety.com. With MSA Safety, when you go in, we go in with you.
We can't avoid talking about, I think, mental health. I mean, it's a national, if not international, conversation about the challenges of mental health. And tomorrow we've got a session about burnout. Today we got a session about stress in the control room environment. Stress is a massive factor, surely, in why some people might choose to leave the emergency services. So, what's the balance between, how do you help people who have perhaps really emotionally and mentally hit a bit of a brick wall? At the same time as then leaving the only thing that they know? What's the pathway for them?
Well, I think there's a couple of things in that. There's a number of charities which obviously you can signpost to, and organisations such as the police and the fire will have things in place. So there is a very well-oiled machine around the well-being and hopefully bringing people through. And as people move through, again, it's that sense of purpose, making people realise actually that there is still life in them. I've hit my 50s now, but and I've had my eldest boy made me watch Arnold Schwarzenegger Netflix documentary there recently, and I thought to myself, God, I'm a bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger, maybe not shape-wise, but he had three episodes in his life, or 3 periods, sportsman, actor, and then politician. I thought, right, still time left in me. So it's that, we talk so often about the hand up. I quite often, service personnel and veterans don't necessarily need the hand out. They need the hand up. And that's maybe the network of opening doors and saying, look, and vouching for it, which is so important, because operationally, I may not have worked with Will, but I know the level that he's worked with, and I would be comfortable in his, vouching for him that this person has worked at a certain level, he's worked in a certain environment, and I think you should have a conversation with them. So it's that connecting, networking, and as people are leaving, starting to think, right, I need to start thinking about my network here.
And that brings a good one on the community you mentioned.
Yeah.
Will mentioned that maybe you don't want to go into an employment that reminds you solely of being engaged in that high tense environment. But what is massively is that the support of a community who understand what you're going through is very supportive in managing if you have those mental health problems. So that's why I think it's really, really key is building a community everyone can easily touch base in and out with,
Yeah.
not necessarily have to be around all the time, but can have a quick text or a opportunity to meet up, to engage, to release that pressure, that valve. That's so key. And I don't want to go back on the Connect through service, but that's also a mindset of Connect through services we've all served.
Yes.
Okay, and that's why Connect through service makes sense. Being around like-minded people helps also with the mental health, as opposed to going on to that next career, but not necessarily been in that high-pressured environment that that then may trigger.
Yeah, absolutely. But the whole thing about working in an emergency service or the military, I imagine, is there is always a sense of community, isn't it? You know, whether it's your crew as a firefighter or your shift, with your colleagues in ambulance or policing. So I think also one of the mentalities that perhaps people who work in the emergency services and military struggle with is actually asking for help as well. And asking for help whilst you're in a community is great, but when you're all of a sudden not in that community, you haven't got that institution to draw on, it can feel presumably quite isolating for those people.
And that's why some informal events are quite good. You know, we have a conference coming up, where sort of service leavers in business, and BT are going to host that for us. But those sort of informal events, we're not reinventing the wheel. You know, so me leaving the service and then going into business, other people have travelled that. So if you can get everybody in the room who understand what you're going through, then you can have those informal conversations. You know, the old slap on the shoulder and going, "Yeah, remember the day? What would you do if this happened?" And they sort of take you aside and have a quiet word with you and give you a bit of advice. So those mentors who have already walked that path are excellent to have, and we're very lucky with some of the ones that we reach out to and are constantly giving us advice.
Yeah, and presumably it's quite a personal thing. I mean, when you've talked about you stepped away from policing but you still love it, so presumably for some people, especially if they leave the service not because they're taking retirement but because there's been a point where it's pushed them out for whatever reason, do you think there are routes back in for people as well?
Yes, I mean it always used to be, and I'll probably only talk about policing. Forgive me, I don't know what the process in the fire service and or across the blue light world is, but in policing it was always you resign, and then subsequently in the future, if you had a change of heart or whatever, you had to reapply, or you had a career break, which gave you a kind of window to go back into where it could be accommodated. You go back into the role you were in and all that kind of stuff. And I think it was always a 3-year window to do that. I think given that policing particularly has had ongoing retention and recruitment issues, that has all changed. So it's essentially never been easier to leave policing, go and develop yourself or give your family a break, or whatever your reasons are, and go and do something entirely different, and then to rejoin and take all those additional skills and experiences back into policing. That's never been easier. I think there are things to bear in mind with that. So many people have said to me, because I quite often get in conversation with people and they're like, "Oh, do you think you might come back?" and all that kind of stuff. And there's a chance I might. It's probably not going to look exactly the same as how I did before. And I think that's probably a healthy thing. But I certainly don't see it as a negative to go away and do something different for a while, and then, take all those skills and experiences back and improve policing or fire or ambulance, whatever it is, as a result of those experiences. I don't think that's that's not a negative thing. I think that's awesome.
I mean, if you think about somebody who's probably developed a career in the commercial world, they might change job every 2, 3, 4 years, take it and learning as they go, and taking those experiences along. Somehow in the emergency services, we seem to have got a mindset is you join and you're there right till the end, and that's the world know.
And I joined thinking I would spend 30, 35 years, whatever, doing that, but that wasn't the way it worked out for me.
Yeah.
There is, as a slight segue, but I think there is a little bit of a weird situation with policing particularly, where you're either a serving officer or you've retired. And, even little things that surprised me, like when you're retired, you're eligible for a blue light card and a retired police officer card and all the discounts and all the rest of it. I could have, as it was, I did 15 years. I could have done 20 years of frontline policing And the moment I walked out that door, I'm not entitled to a blue light discount card. Although my sister, who's a social worker, who does an incredibly important job, she would be entitled to one. So it's not meant to sound embittered, but the point I'm making is the military works entirely differently. You can serve for a couple of years in the military and you're a veteran. And you're entitled to all the support, be that, discounts in shops, or more importantly, access to healthcare, mental health support, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You're a veteran, no matter what your service was, and you're entitled to that. Policing has got some catching up to do, because you can do 20 years, you can walk out the door, and you do not access the services that you would if you were retired.
It's probably not just policing, it's probably blue light more generally.
Yeah.
I didn't want to slur the other services, but yeah,
others
may well
might
be
have
good.
views about that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So in summary then, because I'd like to take some questions, but if you had one thing that you want the audience to take away from today, what would be your sort of top tip to anyone who's perhaps facing this dilemma of, it's time for me to go, but I have no idea where to go or what to do?
Network, network, network.
Oh, lovely.
Literally the best thing to ever do.
Jay is particularly good at that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a skill in itself, right?
Networking, LinkedIn, be prepared. I know it's an awful thing to say, but you should be preparing to leave as soon as you join.
Yeah.
I know that's a hard thing, but it's such an important thing. Not that that's a negative. It's not. It's actually a good leaving is a good promotion for entities, for people to join. But networking is so important.
Yeah.
Doing any courses, looking at an industry you want to join. So that's my takeaway. Don't want to talk too much. I don't have any questions.
Graham, can I ask you next?
Yeah, I would probably say the planning piece. Ask the question: can you afford to live? Or sorry, can you afford to leave?
Yeah.
And it's that that then gives you the luxury to have that decision about your next phase, whether it's all about work to live or live to work. If you haven't done your financials, if you don't have the house sort of paid off, or you're now going to have to go into something that's going to be another pressure, another sort of stress to your life. So yeah, I would say get yourself to a point, know your sort of finances, and the sort of wraparound and all of that, and then that allows you the luxury of deciding what sort of career you want to go into.
Okay. And Will?
I'll try hard to be succinct. Number one, have confidence. And I mean that in several ways. Have confidence about staying in the emergency services, because it is an extraordinary job. And we know it comes with loads of issues and pressures, but it is a remarkable job. And as soon as you leave, most people will look at you and you'll explain what you do, and they'll look at you like you're mad, because it's the kind of thing they've always wanted to do. However, if you do take the step and leave, have confidence in your skills and experiences, which are hardcore, and don't let anyone ever imply anything different. They are next level, life and death, like just remarkable skills. Have confidence in the values that you've got from the emergency services. You see stuff in the news all the time about, cultural issues in policing or fire or ambulance. I work for a really good company and with really good people, but generally in the corporate world, do you think I see more sexism, misogyny, racism, all the rest of it in the corporate world or in policing? I can tell you now, tenfold the corporate world. So have confidence in the values that you've had in the emergency services, and just have confidence in yourself and what you're worth when you're negotiating a salary.
Yeah.
Go for it. You're worth a lot. Have confidence.
It's a really valid point you make, actually, because obviously the public sector generally has a lot more public scrutiny.
Yeah.
So all of those issues
It gets clobbered continually.
but we don't hear that there's not a level playing field, is there? Because we don't hear that about the commercial world. So
Yeah,
that's
well, you've heard it now.
fascinating.
Someone who's in it.
Absolutely. So
100%.
networking, planning,
Whistleblower.
And you can quote me.
networking, planning and confidence, I think those are really good things. From a personal experience, I think one of the things that can really be difficult when you leave the emergency services is that awareness of what you've got and that skill set. So for me, it's about make sure you spend a bit of time remembering what you like doing and what you're good at, and what are those skills. As you've all talked about, you've probably got some great skills. So and if you need some help in actually being able to describe them, that feels like quite an important thing as well. So yeah. Okay, excellent.
100%.
So I'm going to open up to the floor now and see if we've got any questions. Yes, there's a gentleman down here.
Hello. So my question is in regards to I'm in the Met at the moment, looking to move out 6 years in. Not a very long time. There is a lot of political issues, obviously, as well you may know. My route out potentially is into teaching. So like the level 3 education and teaching, that kind of thing, first aid, so on and so forth. But in regards to the next moves out and how that's done, like you said, in terms of the connect through services, there's no kind of links to do that or know how to do that the best way possible. So in regards to maybe a quick interlude into that is how would I look at getting into, say, teaching the best way possible, from your views in terms of connect through service and the experiences you guys have had moving out?
Are you good, Jace? You okay?
Sorry, did you say you have your level 3?
No, looking to do level 3. I've done the PPST and level 4 teaching, but that's police specific. So in the corporate world, it's not necessarily seen as the same level of qualification. But in regards to getting a level 3 would be what my way out would be, and having that sort of, as you said about confidence, the best way to know how to do that moving into that sector.
I think obviously there's a couple of things there in terms of go back to that lifestyle, and you're going to have to budget for that period when you're then in training, which in itself, if you have overheads, family, is quite a daunting sort of experience. From a practical point of view, my piece in all of that would be if you can get yourself into, as many of the ones that I know in Northern Ireland have done, who have made that transition into teaching in some capacity, is that level 3 and being a trainer within police. But if you get to become a trainer within police, you may end up actually being reinvigorated within the job. So maybe it's not actually looking to leave. Maybe it's trying to find something that you're interested within the organisation, and having that, getting somebody to sponsor you onto your, your City and Guilds or the Canterbury, those level 3 qualifications, so that then you become a trainer. Leaving is a big thing, and that's the bit I would come back to. How long have you got left in?
I've only got 6 years in, so it'll be
So-
quite a while.
200 years.
So
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
So now, yes, that sort of lead-in period that we were talking about, you've got 6 years now to sort of try and tick those boxes, but I would try and leave with a training qualification. I would try and leave with some sort of experience as a trainer, and I would be volunteering at, in your spare time with a local charity that is involved with young people or in the schools, so that then that goes on to your CV when you're putting it in to do your PGCE.
Well,
Can I clarify? You're saying that you want to go into school teaching, or you want to...
So sort of the lifelong learning sector, so level 3, so first aid teaching,
Okay.
mental health teaching, that kind of thing, rather than sort of teaching kids.
Oh, right.
Sort of more the adult teaching sector.
okay.
Okay, fine. And sorry, it's quite hard to hear, but your question is related to what can I do to...
Yeah, so what would be the best way to maybe transition into the private sector, into teaching things like that?
Right.
So I would say you're not wanting to leave right now, that's direct, but you want to be prepared to, when you do leave, to transition. Is that what you're saying?
Sort of looking to leave around about now-ish.
Okay. So
Would be good.
So what I would have said is, if you hadn't got a desire to leave now, it's start getting those qualifications, earmarking, right, that's the qualification I need, and start approaching the companies that you would like to work with now, even if you haven't got that end date, to start building that rapport, that relationship. That's the key. That goes back to the networking. So get the qualifications. So when you go, which so many don't do, is they leave, then get the qualifications, qual while you're in, and then when you then go, you can kind of more leave on your terms than I'm leaving with no plan.
Yeah.
Are you instructor in anything at the minute? In the job?
Just past PPST.
Okay. So officer safety.
Yeah, officer safety training trainer, basically. So I've
Okay.
just passed that.
So
Well, I mean, unless you have an urgent need to go now, and you may well do, in which case I'm sure you will make it work. My advice would be consider trying to do that for a bit and build up your experience doing that. I'm not saying do it for a decade. I'm saying do it for a bit. But I agree with everything these guys have said. But yeah, networking, are you on LinkedIn, for example?
No, not yet.
So I religiously stayed off LinkedIn when I was in policing, because I thought, frankly, I thought I was above it, because it's the corporate thing. I don't have to do that because I, drive a BMW around carrying a gun. Like it was a weird, arrogant thing, right? It's the best thing I've ever done. And even if I did go back to policing, I would stay on LinkedIn, because the networking and community you can get through that is absolutely superb. So do that. Sorry, Graham.
Yeah, and you've got time in your hands, and the worst thing anybody can ever do is leave without having a soft landing. And the time that you have in the job that you're in now, then getting those extra add-ons, so where you volunteer as a trainer, or you're, the search and rescue side, or something similar, but you're evidencing, so that when you do go to speak to somebody, that you're saying, well, yes, I mightn't have that, but I've got the experience, and I've done this, and this. That's key.
Perfect, guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the question. I think what you bring out actually is something that is worth talking a little bit more about around the networking, because I think, again, when I was working in the public sector, I didn't really, yes, I would go to conferences and events and I understood what networking meant. But when you're in the corporate world, and when especially if you're a freelancer on your own, LinkedIn is a valuable source of information. And I think there's something else about doing, I think while you're still in public sector, you don't necessarily look outside the sector and do the research. So I would say there's also something about realizing there are companies out there that want and need people.
Yes.
But you have to kind of go and engage with them, and you've got to take that step forward,
Yes.
which is a brave thing to do, right?
Yeah, and there are a lot of business leaders who are very happy to give up their time. They'll meet you for a coffee, they'll give you loads of advice, and at the same time, they've now become your sort of, if you like, your guide into the sort of new world. I remember a former chief constable telling me, about the promotion route in policing, and it was, identified person with the long coattails, and then jump on them and stay with them on the journey up. I was like, right, that sounds thick. But it's no different, I suppose, in the commercial world. Not everybody is cutthroat. There are people in the commercial world who genuinely want to help. They respect what you've done and what you've the service that you've had, and they will go out of their way to help, and they'll make those introductions for you. You just have to ask.
Yeah. And there's an adage, isn't there, that people buy people. So that.
My God, you stole my line. I use it all the time.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right.
They do. And it's stuff that I'm learning now. People want to know who you are and what you're about. And that's where the whole LinkedIn and social media world comes in when you're in the commercial world. I'm not sure in the public sector we feel we can't, because we might be taken as speaking on behalf of our organisation, and that's not allowed. So it's a very different sort of world, isn't it?
Yeah. Spot on.
We'll finish for now, but thank you very much to our speakers. If you would,
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joy.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening. Remember that by taking time to learn from our speakers, you can earn CPD points from our partner CPDme. So do check out the link in the show notes. Our thanks to MSA Safety for their continued support for our podcast, and Smart Digital for producing this series. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to For Every Response, the podcast from Emergency Services Times.